Ex-Destiny designer reacts to marathon announcements. All right, so we could take a look at this. Let me just read this real quick. Fractal Grove co-founder and lead designer Vince worked at Bungie until 2019 and helped create Destiny 2. We're following this up with some of Vince's gameplay and thoughts from the alpha test. Stay tuned. Okay.
If you have a scale of 1 to 10, I had really positive vibes about Marathon just because of the people I knew working on it and like the passion and like they were really into Escape from Tarkov at the time. Tarkov was like pretty new at this point. It had only been out for like 2 years. They were playing a lot of that. And they were like, hey, can we make, our own version of Tarkov that's better in like Destiny tools and stuff like that, which I thought was really fucking cool. Let's get into this trailer. I'll stop yapping for a little bit and let's see where this goes.
I met a traveler from an antique land who said dust and trunkless stones stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sun, a shattered visage lies.
Okay, I just wanted to say the use of Shelley's Ozymandias here, a sonnet, I think. And I don't know, it was a poem written in like the early 1800s. I think it's a really weird application of this. I think it's weird to put this in here because it like kind of fits because obviously like some disaster happened and civilization collapsed and that's kind of what they're going for. But it's strange.
It was like the focal point of the ARG as well. For us that have been doing the ARG, it was like, oh shit, that's what they're saying, right?
I thought this was gorgeous. I thought it was wonderful, really good stuff. Classic big Bungie, like amazing art. Nothing looks like Marathon that exists out there. And I think that's really good. When you look at the gameplay, it doesn't quite match the feel of those cinematics, which made me a little worried. So if I was talking about a scale of 1 to 10, I was sort of near a 3 because I was excited, but I'm skeptical. I worked at Bungie. So there are good things and bad things. You guys have seen a lot of the scandals that have happened with Bungie over the last year and a half, 2 years. Not good stuff coming out of, how the studio functions, what the culture's like, all of that. I don't want to get too deep in there, but that gave me some skepticism. After watching this reveal and hearing the team talk about it and what they were making, I would say I moved from a 3 to a 5. I'm still highly skeptical. I really want to play the alpha, see what the game is like. As I've watched a lot of this footage and what I've looked at for Marathon, one thing I noticed that is dissonant with the cinematic stuff they've shown, if you're looking at this, everything is toned blue. Everything's really cool in temperature-wise and the color palette. And I was realizing that's why it has a weird feel to it. So if you think about like moods and how people react to color, all of these cool tones bring your mood down. And that doesn't necessarily fit well with an action game. You need some kind of like bright popping colors and other stuff to kind of get moods up, right? So maybe that's why people have been reacting somewhat negatively.
Point in this video, the dude is biased. Which way is he biased? Obviously not your way. Seems like he's mad he's not working at Bungie. Dude, are you guys perceiving things on like another realm? I'm not picking that up at all. Like what? Les, what did you just say? Bias, he gave it a rating. He said he was at a 3 out of 10 and then went to a 5 out of 10, and he's saying he's skeptical. There could be a lot of reasons why someone's not working at Bungie. Sure, they could have been fired, or they could have been an independent contractor, or they could have found some work elsewhere, a better opportunity. You know what I mean? They're reading between the braille lines with their ears. Yeah, I'm just trying to see, like, I haven't really heard anything from them that's necessarily a new take or a different take, but I definitely don't. I'm not hearing any bias standpoint from them at all.
AI, PvE encounters, but then there's also other players, and it's sort of the same mentality of like anything you take out with you from a run, you get to keep, and you can add to your kit and all that. So that's really compelling. I have seen some people comment that that's weird when you consider Bungie's current audience in Destiny, in how that game is about collecting things instead of like building up this hoard of items that you've got over your, decade of experience playing Destiny. I think that this is a smart choice and Bungie needs to court a new audience because I think the Destiny audience has fallen off. I can't really substantiate that with anything. I'm sure we could go look at Steam charts and see those numbers just.
Yo, who is this fucking guy? Nah. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt right now, but that's too far, man.
On a steady decline, but the direction of the game has gone in a way that I'm not playing Destiny anymore. It used to be one of my favorite games. I haven't played Destiny since Witch Queen. I think the last time I played was we did, a ride-along interview with Mikowski about the return of the Whisper and Zero Hour, which I think became paid dungeons. I very strongly was against that. When I made the Whisper and Zero Hour, they were free content on purpose. It was supposed to be thank you people for playing. Destiny still has big secrets. They're all hidden in plain sight. That was the vibe.
All right. This guy's all right. Oh, no. He's legit. Yeah. No. He's base. That's a base take.
It turned into monetizing dungeons. You have to buy a dungeon pass. I don't agree with that. I don't like how any of that stuff went. I don't think it was great. So that all of that being said, Marathon is courting an entirely different audience. That's a really good thing.
It's free though. What's free? Dungeons are not free. Raids are not free. Do you mind exotic missions? 0 Hour and Whisper that he made are still free. Are they? Dude, I buy the $100 edition of Destiny every year. And I don't know what's... I would have to go through... There's like a whole list of what's free and then what's not free. He's not talking about the 0 Hour quest.
The last time I played was we did, a ride-along interview with Mikowski about the return of the Whisper and 0 Hour, which I think became paid dungeons.
Oh, he's saying that Whisper and 0 Hour is paid dungeons. No, that's not right. I'm pretty sure they're free. I understand dungeon keys. No, if he's making a comment about dungeon keys, yeah. It's called an exotic mission dungeon. That's the confusion. Yeah, exotic missions are not dungeons. Dungeons are dungeons. Exotic missions are exotic missions. Raids are raids. All right, let's just continue.
Marathon is courting an entirely different audience. That's a really good thing for Bungie. They can't lean on the Destiny audience. They need to capture a new audience because the Destiny audience is dwindling and shrinking, and I think people are just not here for it anymore. So some of the other people have said this doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? As someone who makes games, it makes a lot of sense to me, and I think it's a smart choice. Of course, it's risky, but it's what they need to do. Bungie's in kind of a dangerous position right now. The studio's future is hanging on Marathon. Destiny's clearly not going to keep them afloat. They were just acquired by Sony last year for like 3.6, over $3 billion, like about $3.5 billion. So this is a really important game for the future of the studio. And I think we're going to look at either the full collapse of Bungie and like off in the sunset they go, or they'll be returning to form, sort of rising from the ashes a little bit, right? I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom about Bungie, but the news about Bungie and the reception in the wider gaming audience for Bungie's stuff has been very negative or lukewarm for a couple of years now. So they need this. I think it's the right choice. I think they're going in the right direction. All that remains to be seen is if the game is actually good and compelling to play. A lot of the early impressions are mixed. Some people say it's good. It might be that they were paid to say it's good. We don't know that. I can't confirm any of those things. But I do know that common practice for AAA studios, especially if they're working with content creators and streamers, to say, you can cover this game, but there are certain things you cannot say. And the reason why they do that is because there can be a really, really negative impact on sales of the game if a very popular content creator says negative shit about it. It sucks because you, as a consumer, you watch your favorite streamer and you're like, oh, this is great. This is an honest take. Most of the time, it's not an honest take, especially if it's sponsored. It can't be, because that can really, really hurt the game.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily trust a sponsored video or a sponsored review. Granted, have we done sponsor reviews? Yeah, we did one for Remnant too. The easiest review of my life. It's great. It's a great game. But should you trust a sponsor review? No. I mean, I would say at that point you might want to just go watch Skill Up. Dude, Skill Up's super fair, man. And look. I really like Skill Up's like approach to a lot of these things, because like there's no transactions, there's no money. He's buying his own like room and board and flights to go visit these studios. You know what I mean? So Skill Up's great. Now, that doesn't mean that my taste is aligned with Skill Up's taste, because there's sometimes where he likes a game that I didn't really like as much. You know what I mean? Or vice versa, right? But at least he's honest. He says what he feels, and there's no transactions are occurring that would sway him either way. And also, I will say this too about like sponsorship stuff too. The only companies that I've ever seen that have tried to tell me what to say has been mobile games. And like, if there's like one thing we kind of steer away from doing any type of like, and not that I have anything against mobile games, it's just I don't play on mobile. But there have been mobile games in the past that will try to be like, I'll just point out Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends will literally give you a page on what you're supposed to say, and it's like, brother, come, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like almost 10 times out of 10. Even if it's sponsored, the only thing they don't want you to do is break NDA on shit. Because it's such a, you're shooting yourself in both feet if you try to sit there and guide someone. But now there's cherry picked reviews. I've seen in the past, only certain people get access to early access codes or game review keys. What was the game that came out last year, guys? They cherry picked which creators would get early access to then review the game. What was it, guys? Dragon Age Veilguard. So Veilguard, dude, that blew up in their face. That whole situation blew up in their face because, you know, they had they said what the reasons were for who they gave review codes to. But the point is like it came across as them trying to control the narrative by giving it to people that they felt would give them more positive reception. We've seen it with Starfield on who got early access keys as well. They wanted people with more positive reception. Anyways, it normally doesn't work out well when you're trying to control the narrative. Turns out if you just make a good game, you'll make a good game. It'll be received well. Don't you dare disrespect Starfield. Dude, that game is shite. The fuck out of here. Little call it out is. Oblivion Remaster here recently, substantially better than Starfield. Say it how it is. Say it how it is. No. Oblivion Remaster completely destroys Starfield. And that's an entirely new IP. That's an entirely new game. Oblivion, a fucking remaster, blows that shit out of the water. Glad it even says it. Starfield is the definition of fucking mid. Thank you. It is. It's the truth. But that's the fanboys. Anyways, I'm trying to keep up with this guy saying he's losing me. He gets me back. He's losing me again. Hold on, let me back up.
Modern AAA, just so you guys are aware, if there's a featured segment or it's sponsored or someone got this early look, it's usually very carefully controlled about the messaging because it's a major advertising beat. Just be aware of that as you're looking at stuff around this game. There are a couple people, I think it was Skill Up.
My shit is extremely biased. Don't trust anything I say.
That did some of the more honest takes. And while I agree with some of the things Skill Up was saying, he was also one of the people that was talking about how it doesn't make sense Bungie's courting a new audience. I think he doesn't get it there, and that's okay. He doesn't make games. I think he doesn't get it there, and that's okay. He doesn't make games.
Look. Skill Up likes Destiny, and Skill Up plays Destiny. And like the rest of us, Skill Up is wondering why the fuck a Destiny 3 wasn't being made. All right? And Skill Up doesn't make games, but does a phenomenal job covering games. Dude, this is what I'm talking about, man. Look. I like working with devs, but there are some devs I've worked with in the past, dude. They got their own way, and it's their way, and you almost just have to just be like, do it your way. Do it your way. Go do it your way. Blows the fuck up in their face, and then maybe we can go back to the drawing table. You know, why even consult us? Why even have people even come in to even consult if you're not even gonna listen? Do it your way and crash and burn. Look, and listen. I think that. Yes, Marathon, I think that strategically, if they weren't wanting to cannibalize their own fan base, sure, you make a completely different game than Destiny, right? You target just PvP players. And then that way the PvE players got Destiny still. Or you could have just made a D3. You know what I mean? It blows my mind that you can't see the value in Destiny and you made zero. If you are, I don't know how much he did on 0 Hour and Outbreak, but if you can't see the value in Destiny, like dude, D3 is such a fucking layup. It's such an obvious, like such an easy, like, what's the next thing that we should make? Fucking D3. Or just keep, you know, I don't know, like if there's supposed to be like some sort of Destiny, like take Final Fantasy or Realm Reborn. If there's some like Destiny Realm Reborn moments, all right, you know, maybe we could do, I mean, maybe Destiny drops the 2 and it's just like Destiny Forever, Destiny or Realm Reborn, or just call it Destiny 3. I don't know.
I think it's a smart decision. I think they need to do this. They need a new audience. The future of the studio depends on it. So Marathon is still 6 months away. We're looking at September as like a launch date that may or may not stick. If the closed alpha goes poorly for reception, and what I mean by poorly is if people have negative reactions to it and they're not really fucking with it, Bungie's got a little bit of time to pivot. The amount of changes you can make in 6 months are really small. I'm seeing other people say, you know, there's hundreds of people working on it. There's a team of about 300. 6 months is a lot of time for 300 people to do that. I'm going to say the reality of it is when you're working at this scale with these budgets, this game is done. You can't move that quickly. When you have such a large team, you have to be really careful about how you spend money. Otherwise, the game doesn't release. They've made it worse. and the whole studio collapses. Everyone loses their jobs, and that's it. And it's, you know, RIP. So we got to wait and see. That being said, that's why I'm at like a 5 on the scale. I'm very excited to check out the combatants in this, and what I mean are like the PvE AI enemies. All the early impressions said that they're very interesting. They're really cool to fight. They have some really interesting gameplay components to them. So seeing where all of that goes is going to be really cool. I'm checking out chat and I see you guys talking about money, and that is my really big worry. This is where I'm concerned that this game is competing with other games that are free to play. It's brand new IP. Even though it's based on Marathon, this is a new IP. You have to consider it as such. It's not as established. Think about all of that. So there's a lot we don't know, a lot of potential. I think the cost is potentially going to hurt it, and all the things that I was saying about Destiny. Then we go over to Joe Ziegler, who's the creative director for the game. So this I think is interesting. I know that the old creative director, Chris Barrett, he's the one responsible for the art style. That's what we're seeing here. Chris Barrett had a very unceremonious exit.
That Joe Cross he's the guy that's led the art style, right? Joe Cross has been on it from the very beginning. Cross he designed all the characters from the ground up. There's Joe Ziegler and then also Joe Cross. Those are two guys on there.
He was replaced by Joe Ziegler. Joe Ziegler was the guy who did Valorant. So that's great. That's a good game. Whatever, you know, personal opinions are aside, that is a quality game, well thought out, well executed. There's hope there. If Joe brings his acumen here, helps usher Marathon into a good space, we could have some really compelling gameplay. Where I have issues with the monetization, Joe Ziegler, the Skill Up podcast, they were asking about monetization, and he gave this very PR-focused marketing response where he was like, you know, we gotta figure this out, blah, 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 whatever. And then he ended with like, everyone has a different idea of what the right price is for them. I'm just gonna, you know, throw a little shade here and say that that's a fucking stupid answer. I think the right answer is we need to cost the game enough for the studio to stay in business, and we need to make a good value proposition to the customer to say it's worth this much, and people are like, this game is really good, I'm gonna buy it for that amount. That's the correct answer. He should have said that shit. Instead, what he...
Damn right, Joe.
did was sort of push the onus onto the player and be like, well, if, you know, $40 is too much for you, this game's not for you.
I mean, that's still a PR answer. You know what I mean?
We need to cost the game enough for the studio to stay in business, and we need to...
Yeah, I mean, it's trading one PR answer for another one, a longer one.
Make a good value proposition to the customer to say it's worth this much, and people are like, this game is really good, I'm going to buy it for that amount. That's the correct answer.
Can I just say, I don't give a shit about the price. I'm not, whether it's $40, $35, it shouldn't be $60. But whether it's between $30 and $40, I don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, it's just gotta be a good game, man. Let me tell you, would Concord have survived had it been free? No, it wouldn't. It was dead. It was gonna die. That game was destined to die. That game was destined to be in the history books for developers for the next century and beyond to learn from, okay? That game is in the Guinness World Record for how to nosedive your franchise, like the 26 moves from Dr. Lupo. Concord made every move, the most calculated move possible, to take their business completely fucking out. You know what I mean? Like, they could not have picked a better path to fuck themselves at every twist and turn. And I don't think being free would have saved it. Actually, being free would have probably kept some of the negativity away, but people still would have shit all over it. You know what I mean?
Instead, what he did was sort of push the onus onto the player and be like, well, if, you know, $40 is too much for you, this game's not for you.
I don't think that's... Everyone has their own definition of what's the right price. Yeah, I don't know if he's necessarily pushing that on a consumer. When I hear everyone has their own definition of what's the price, I mean, maybe. I don't think Joe was calling people broke bitches. Dude, look, I'm not trying to be abrasive, all right? I'm really not. You know, this guy says the ex-Destiny 2 designer. All right. It almost sounds like he's saying Joe was like, you can't get a $40 game, you a broke bitch. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I was getting that from Joe. And look, I don't necessarily think Marathon is gonna be like, I like art graders more than Marathon, but I don't think Joe was saying that either. God, I hate it when Les is right. Les literally came in within the first 60 seconds. It's like, this dude's just mad because he doesn't work at Bungie anymore. Oh, man. And I'm not saying that that's right, but damn it, he didn't help his case throughout the rest of this video. You know what I'm saying? He didn't help his case. Fuck you, Les.
Throw a little shade here and say that that's a fucking stupid answer. I think the right answer is we need to cost the game enough for the studio to stay in business, and we need to make a good value proposition to the customer to say it's worth this much, and people are like, this game is really good, I'm going to buy it for that amount. That's the correct answer. He should have said that shit. Instead, what he did was sort of push the onus onto the player and be like, well, if, you know, $40 is too much for you, this game's not for you.
I mean, I'm not saying Joe's the greatest game director. I don't play Valorant, you know what I mean? But that dude acts so fucking chill. I don't think I've ever heard him say anything like that. I don't think I've ever heard him say anything like that at all. You know, even we listen to the podcast.
Between the cinematic content and the gameplay content, I would love to see them make an adjustment there if they can. That would be really cool, just to get more of that feel back into the game. Again, we're only seeing this one map. There could be a completely different art style to the other maps. We don't know. They were saying they were going to ship with 4 maps. It sounds like, I'm a little skeptical about this too, because I don't know if it fits in an extraction shooter, but it sounds like their 4th map that no one knows about has like Destiny raid mechanics in it. And with the lack of proximity voice chat, which is something they said they won't do because that creates an incredibly toxic game environment, I firmly disagree with that. I think that's a silly take.
Makes a point. No, it needs that prox. Arc Raiders has got it. It's fantastic.
And you should never index that way. You should always leave it up to the player to turn that shit off if they're bothered by it. Because having played Tarkov, I've pretty much only had positive experiences or really memorable, important gameplay moments interacting with proximity voice chat in Tarkov. It's only a win. I do not see it being negative. I don't know why they would choose to not do it. And I think it's a very silly choice. Here's my question. If you're getting negative reactions to a game that's not out yet, that's good. That means people care. If you get 0 reaction and you do this huge marketing beat, that's really bad. So the fact that people have strong opinions is a really positive indicator of what this game's potential is. So this is a good thing. I know there's a lot of negativity out there, but there's also a lot of positive.
Unless you're Concord. And then turns out the negativity was just right. I mean, look. I mean, like we could. At every point, I was like, you know, maybe you got people looking at the game. They're talking about that game. Could they be customers potentially? Let me just say, Concord scares the fuck out of people. Concord scares so many studios. That's just put the fear of God into every studio out there. That because look, what happened, what really happened was all you fuckers got together and decided to bury that shit. And like the most organized hive mind I have ever seen in my life on the internet, you fuckers pulled it off. I mean, you pulled it off. No one could convince you to play that game.
Middle of the ground, we have to wait and see. Get in there, play the game, decide for yourself. Don't judge it strictly based on other people's opinions. You really need to figure it out for yourself.
All right. Well, I didn't really learn a lot from this video. This is from Factual Grove here. What I did learn was Skillup doesn't know what he's talking about because he doesn't make games. Fucking blow my mind. And Joe called a bunch of people broke bitches. There were some points that I think are like some easy points to make. That's like such an easy one to you know, be like, obviously, like, don't overcharge people. Like, that's not a hard one to get people to agree with. You know what I mean? Yeah, we'll see what the price point was on this. Joe is just like Luke Smith for real. No, Joe is not, man. Like Joe, I think, like, look, I like Joe. I don't know Joe personally. Joe's a little, I think he's almost too chill. I think he's too chill, man. Now, Luke Smith was a little too fucking, you know, high strung, man. He's like right there in front of the camera. He's like, you're gonna fucking buy this shit. You're gonna fucking buy it for whatever price we fucking put it at. I mean, like, easy, bro. Wasn't it? Luke, calm down, you know. But Joe was nothing like that. This is the ex-Bungie's dev next game. The soundtrack makes sense now. All right. We gave up D3 for this. Oh, man. You guys need to chill, dude. Y'all need to fucking chill. No, man. Dude, like, look. You guys are roasting this man. He put his heart and soul in this shit. It's fucking surfing on grass. Got the trees in the background. I want to see Cross make a studio like Shroud. Low-key would slap. Bro, no one would ever make the game that I want. And for good reason. We would go broke. We would file bankruptcy at least 6 times before the game came out. Okay, I would get involved with probably hard crime, potentially money laundering, fucking drug money to ship that shit. It would blow up in our face on so many levels. But you know what? It would be a simple game. It would essentially be Destiny and RuneScape had a baby. That's the game I would make. It would have 99 capes. It would have skills. It would have fishing. It would be RuneScape, but in space. And as a first-person shooter. No one would ever want to make that shit. That's Starfield. Les, if you weren't a fucking mod, I would ban you right now. Don't you ever say that again.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.